Jerome, Jason, quit trying to change everything. I know what I saw. My fingers gripped the edge of our kitchen counter so tightly they turned white, the tension spreading up my arms like an electric current. The coolness of the stone beneath my palms was a stark contrast to the heat flushing my face, a grounding sensation amid the rising storm inside me. Jason leaned casually against the door frame, his posture relaxed but his expression sharpened with that familiar, condescending sneer. "You're making things up in your mind again," he said, his words dripping with dismissal, as if my thoughts were nothing more than fleeting shadows. Then he delivered the blow. "Your last article got rejected for the same reason. Michaela, you see conspiracies everywhere." It hit harder than I expected, like a punch straight to the gut. He knew exactly where to aim. My work, my passion, my credibility. As a journalist, my instincts were everything, and he used them against me like a weapon. At 34, I find myself questioning not just my marriage, but my entire reality. When did the man who once admired my sharp mind become the person who undermines it? My name is Michaela Anderson. 5 years ago, I was a rising star at the Houston Chronicle, celebrated for my intuition and attention to detail. Now, I wonder if I've been missing the biggest story of my life, the one unfolding right inside my own home. I now doubt everything I've noticed, remembered, and instinctively felt. I witnessed Jason eating lunch with Sarah from his workplace, the same Sarah he claimed he never sees outside of work, which sparked tonight's dispute. He didn't simply reject it when I brought it up. For even bringing it up, he gave me the impression that I was going insane. "I spent the entire day at client meetings," he remarked, adopting that condescending tone that I've come to detest. "Most likely, you saw someone who resembled me. Do you recall when you thought you saw me in the mall last month?" Or at least, I believed I did remember. However, it felt vague and confused now. Just like so many previous recollections, did I notice anything? The specifics of what I witnessed today seemed to elude me more and more the harder I tried to remember them. Something drew my attention as I stood in our kitchen, seeing Jason's self-assured smile. When he entered, a receipt had dropped out of his pocket. From Cafe Luna, where I saw him with Sarah today, it was partially visible beneath the counter's edge. My heart began to race, but I made myself remain composed. Wow. I had something tangible, something genuine, something he couldn't manipulate for the first time in months. I realized then that I needed additional evidence. While covering a charity banquet for the paper, I ran into Jason. He was successful, affable, and showed genuine interest in what I did. I blushed as he said, "A beautiful journalist with both brains and ambition. Can a man ask for more?" In hindsight, I ought to have observed that he consistently prioritized my looks over my skills. My office was buzzing about our brief affair. Jason would surprise me with lunch delivery and send beautiful flower arrangements to my desk. Rachel, my editor, seems less pleased by the gestures than my colleagues. One day, she had advised, "Just be careful. Men who enjoy making spectacles for the public frequently have personal objectives." I wrote off her worry as cynicism from someone who had been in the field too long. At first, I hardly noticed the changes because they occurred so gradually. Jason advised me to decline the senior investigative reporter promotion since it would require me to work additional hours away from home. "Honey, you're already under a lot of stress. All I'm doing is watching out for you." He reminded me of how I almost had a mental breakdown over my previous big piece when I pushed back. I conveniently forgot to explain that he had been constantly challenging my approach and sources, which was the root of my uneasiness. After I turned down the promotion, things were tense between Rachel and myself. She made an effort to discuss it with me, but I supported Jason's care for my welfare. I claim that he just has my best interests in mind, despite the fact that the statements made my stomach turn. Rachel was clearly disappointed, and our weekly mentorship sessions were reduced to quick conversations in the corridor. One pledge I made to myself was to keep up my little personal savings account. I only had a few $1,000 saved up before I met Jason, but it was all mine. Something always prevented me from bringing it up, and he was unaware of it. It was the same inclination that prevented me from carrying my old journals home and instead kept them locked in my desk at work. I could not get the Cafe Luna receipt out of my head. I wanted to face him head on and make him accept the reality, but I knew from experience that he would just create more uncertainty and denial. I put it in my wallet instead, along with an old business card that Rachel had given me months before. She had written, "I'm here when you're ready to talk," on the back. As I closed my wallet, I became aware that my hands were trembling a little. I no longer felt like the self-assured reporter I once was, the lady who could tell a falsehood at 20 paces. However, that inquisitive instinct was resurfacing inside of me, and it was warning me that something was seriously amiss. The following morning, I made the decision to trust my gut. I visited Cafe Luna instead of going directly to the office. Jason was recalled by the amiable barista. Apparently, he was a regular. "Oh, yeah," she answered nonchalantly. "He and Sarah from the firm are always here." By the window, they have the corner table. My gut churned. Jason was sufficiently consistent to have a regular table in addition to lying about the meals. I heard two women conversing at the counter as I placed my coffee order to calm myself. Sarah posted on Instagram. "Did you see it? The one with her hubby at work, the adorable financial counselor." All of their lunch images show them looking extremely comfortable. I almost dropped my cup. I took out my phone and looked up Sarah's profile with shaking fingers. Her profile photo chilled me to the bone, even if it was private. Heads together, she and Jason were laughing at what was obviously their typical table. Jason had left me 3 missed calls and a text when I arrived at the workplace. "I hope yesterday hasn't still affected you. When you're under stress, you know how you get. I adore you." I gazed at the text until the words became hazy. Similar communications that seemed so sympathetic on the surface and always implied that I was the issue flooded my mind over the course of 5 years. I took out my old journals from my desk drawer and read over entries that detailed similar events. Suddenly, the pattern became very evident. I jumped when I heard a knock on my door. Andrea from the city desk was there. "Hey, did you hear? The investigation team is being reorganized. Rachel is going to be departing." "What? Why?" For 15 years, Rachel had worked for the newspaper. Budget cuts are the official reason, but there are rumors that certain influential people who weren't pleased with her most recent corruption report put pressure on her. Andrea spoke rather softly. It seems that her combative reporting style was the subject of a board complaint. My thoughts immediately turned to the charity board meeting Jason had attended as a new member last week. He had said something about having a fascinating discussion about the integrity of journalists. I was ill. Rachel was being pushed out after serving as both my mentor and my champion. Had Jason been involved as well? Was she attempting to warn me and this was her punishment? I took out my phone and launched the app for recording. The time has come to begin recording everything. No more allowing him to distort reality. No more questioning myself. I still knew how to collect evidence because I used to be a really good investigative writer. However, a notification appeared on my screen when I was configuring the program, a reminder on his calendar for tonight's dinner at his parents' house. I had to be careful how I played. Jason would always find a way to make me question everything again if he had any suspicions. At the Winter's house, dinner was always a practice in maintaining appearances. While Jason's father, Robert, dominated conversations with long monologues about his legal profession, Jason's mother, Clara, cared over him. But things felt different tonight. Unspoken comments hung heavily between Clara's pot roast chews, creating tension in the air. So, Claire put down her wine glass and said, "Michaela, Jason tells me that lately you've been having trouble at work. Are your stories giving you trouble?" Jason smirked slightly, and I saw it behind his napkin. "Actually, I'm doing pretty well," I said, maintaining a steady tone. "Actually, I'm writing an essay about dishonest business tactics." I noticed Jason's grin waver. "Oh, what sort of procedures?" Robert leaned forward, suddenly looking interested. Conflicts of interest, covert ties, and financial manipulation. As I sipped my water, I noticed Jason's fingers turning white around his fork. "What people believe they can conceal is astounding." Clara jumped right in. "Jason's performance in the firm has been excellent. Has he informed you of his promotion?" "Promotion? I had never heard of it before." "No, he hasn't brought it up." Jason interrupted loudly. "It's not final yet, Mom." I waited for the ideal moment to break the news. Unaware of Jason's uneasiness, Claire went on. "The job became available after Sarah's husband accepted that position in Denver. How unfortunate that she had to step down. You two got along so nicely." The room whirled a little. Was Sarah married and heading out? As I took in this knowledge, I was able to maintain a neutral expression. Jason was unusually silent as we drove home later that evening. The silence was broken by me. "When would you have informed me of Sarah's departure?" "Michaela, don't begin. It was only today." As if the Cafe Luna lunch had just happened. Before I could stop him, the words escaped. Jason's hand gripped the steering wheel more tightly. "You're imagining things. I told you. I no longer share work news with you for just this reason. Every time you turn it into some wild conspiracy." "Jason." I noticed the receipt. There was no humor in his laughter. "Which receipt? Are you currently searching my pockets?" "This is becoming pitiful." Don't gaslight me. I let the words fly out of me. I am aware of reality. I am aware of what I observed. I jolted forward against my seatbelt as Jason abruptly brought the car over. He spoke in a dangerously composed tone. Are you aware of what's true? The truth is that you're experiencing yet another breakdown. The truth is that I've been attempting to shield you from yourself for years. The truth is that you could lose your job due to a single crazy claim. And trust me, given your dinner time stunt with dishonest tactics, that might occur sooner rather than later. The danger was obvious. My thoughts were racing when I became silent. I had miscalculated how easily he could turn the tables on me, even though I had believed I was prepared to face him. My phone buzzed as we pulled into our driveway. Rachel texted, I received your message. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., we will meet at Crossroads Diner with authorized sources. You should know a few things. A ray of hope. However, as I erased the message, I noticed Jason observing me in the shadows, his eyes gleaming like a predator's in the dashboard lights. When I got there, my recorder was securely tucked away in my purse, and the Crossroads Diner was almost deserted. With 2 unfinished coffees in front of her, Rachel sat in a booth in the corner. But she wasn't by herself. Jason's coworker Sarah sat next to her, appearing anxious but focused. As I slid into the booth, Sarah stated without introduction, I'm heading to Denver tomorrow. However, there are several things you should know about Jason, the company, and the actual circumstances around your stories. On the table, Rachel set a USB drive. Financial records, she said. For months, Sarah has been collecting evidence. What is the evidence? I had a dry mouth. Sarah's voice was hardly audible above a whisper, and Jason isn't merely playing tricks on you. He has been transferring funds through shell companies and altering corporate accounts, and he has been using your journalistic reputation to assist hide it. As Sarah described how Jason had been deliberately damaging my reputation for years, my hands began to shake. He would begin his campaign of subtle gaslighting whenever I approached a subject that would reveal financial irregularities at his company, making me question my intuition until I gave up. Sarah went on to say that journalistic integrity had nothing to do with the board discussion concerning Rachel. Jason persuaded them that by giving you investigative articles, she was fostering your delusions. He showed them your records of therapy. What am I? The room tilted. Rachel replied softly, he's had access to your private therapy sessions for the past 2 years. His cousin is Dr. Martinez? Those meetings, they were there to collect ammunition, not to assist you. As they revealed the full scope of Jason's deceit, the coffee in front of me became cold. I had poured out my doubts and anxieties in the therapy sessions I had agreed to attend at his insistence, but they had only served as a source of material for him to use against me. He had been fed everything by Dr. Martinez, who had also helped him hone his manipulating skills. Sarah took out her phone and added, there's more. She gave me pictures of emails, texts, and documents. Jason has been putting himself in a position to become the firm's executive. He required an unstable person in his life, someone he could blame for his distractions, if inquiries concerning the missing funds arose. That's why he came after you so hard, Rachel continued. A reporter with a track record of exposing corporate deception? It was insurance, not just control, that made you doubt yourself. The insight struck me like a blow to the body. Every advice regarding my mental health, every romantic gesture, and every apparent show of concern had been premeditated. I was a burden being controlled, not just a wife being gaslighted. You're showing me this now, but why? Sarah was asked. Because he's becoming careless. He's beginning to make mistakes, and the stakes are higher than ever. He threatened to ruin my career when I confronted him, claimed that just as no one would trust you, no one would believe me over him. My fingertips brushed my recorder as I reached for my purse. Suddenly, 2 weeks of covert recordings seemed trivial in comparison to what I now understood. But in addition to Sarah's proof, I answered, my journalistic instincts finally overpowering the doubtful voice Jason has sown in my mind. I need copies of everything. After that, we must discuss our strategy for defeating him. While Jason was at the gym that evening, I meticulously transferred Sarah's proof onto my own encrypted disk. Examining the emails, texts, and financial documents that demonstrated his dishonesty made my hands shake. His car pulled into the driveway as I was finishing up. During supper, Jason observed my expression and remarked, you seem distracted. Are things going well at work? I forced a smile and said, just tired. In fact, I've been considering what you mentioned regarding my mental well-being. This weekend, how about inviting your folks over? I want to discuss obtaining help with everyone. A faint smirk of satisfaction danced over his lips. You are really mature, honey. Tonight, I'll give them a call. Rachel assisted me in putting the finishing touches on our strategy the following day. We arranged the evidence, which included testimony from other people Jason had threatened, Sarah's documents, and my recordings. Everything was prepared for dinner on Saturday. But when I opened my inbox on Friday afternoon, I felt chilled. The board of directors of the newspaper sent a note asking for an urgent meeting to discuss my unsettling conduct and mental health. Somehow Jason had learned. Rachel was already on the phone with HR when I hurried to her office. She covered the mouthpiece and added, "They're suspending you pending an investigation. Videos from your therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez appear to have been submitted to them by Jason." My thoughts were racing. Had the therapy sessions been videotaped? They had, of course. Jason never took any chances. Rachel went on, "The board meeting is in an hour. Before you have a chance to reveal anything, they will attempt to discredit you. You have to." I sensed the walls getting closer. Everything we had organized was disintegrating. As Jason had always intended, no one would trust the evidence if I lost my reputation now. At that moment, a text message from an unidentified number buzzed through my phone. "We must speak. Significant. Winters, Clara, the mother of Jason?" After giving it some thought, I decided to meet her in a cafe close to the newspaper office. The board meeting was 40 minutes away. The risk was worthwhile. When I got there, Claire was already there, shielded by her high-end bags. Without introducing herself, she pulled out an old leather planner and stated, "I found something." "When did you bring up fraudulent techniques after that dinner?" I began looking through Robert's old documents. When she opened the planner, she saw handwritten notes concerning shell companies, offshore accounts, and Jason's firm, a name she recognized. Clara remarked in a trembling voice that Robert was more than just Jason's father. He served as his guru in all areas, including deception. For years, they have been engaging in this behavior under the guise of wives and girlfriends. 30 years ago, I was Robert's troubled wife. As Claire described decades of corporate deceit, gaslighting, and financial manipulation, my recorder was already in my pocket. This was about a generational pattern of corruption and abuse, not just Jason anymore. I looked at the time and saw that the board meeting was 20 minutes away. "Would you mind accompanying me, Clara? This is something that some individuals need to hear." A lifetime of doubt and worry slipped from her face as she straightened her back. Indeed, we need someone to believe us. With Clara at my side, I entered the boardroom and found just what I had anticipated. Jason was in the front, using the projector to play snippets from my therapy sessions. Robert, his father, sat smugly among the board members. They demonstrated such flawless technique and convincing sincerity in their displays of concern. Jason said, Michaela, with ease. We just talked about your incidents." As I plugged my USB drive into the laptop, I said, "Yes, I can see that. However, I believe that certain additional instances would also be of interest to the board." As I played Sarah's testimony, financial records flooded the screen. My recordings of Jason's gaslighting came next, and then Clara's heartbreaking testimony regarding the hereditary cycle of psychological abuse and fraud. "What are you doing, Mother?" Jason's voice broke. Clara, however, remained steadfast. "That's exactly what I was instructed not to do." Speaking the truth, the chairman of the board held up his hand as Robert leaped to his feet. "Get a seat, Mr. Winters." "Please go ahead, Mrs. Anderson." As I watched the color leave Jason's face, I declared, "The police and SEC are already on their way. The offshore accounts you and your father have been concealing are of special interest to them." Officers came into the boardroom as if at the same moment. I would never forget Jason's expression of complete incredulity as they read him his rights. As they dragged him away, he made one final attempt to convince them that no one would believe him. Once more, "You're acting irrationally." "No, Jason," I said coolly. "At last, I'm acting rationally." The following day, the article appeared in all of the major news outlets, not just our publication. A father-son fraud plan is revealed and a corporate dynasty crumbles. After their arrest garnered media attention, Jason and Robert's complex network of money, deception, and psychological torture was eventually exposed. After moving in with her sister, Clara began seeing a licensed counselor for therapy. Sarah landed a better job at a Denver firm after her evidence proved crucial to the prosecution. Rachel received a promotion and a formal apology before being allowed to return to the paper. In my case, I embraced a new mission, investigating workplace psychological abuse and corporate fraud. My first article series focused on helping people recognize the subtle, often overlooked signs of gaslighting in professional environments. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of individuals came forward, sharing their personal stories, tales of manipulation, betrayal, and the quiet erosion of self. Their voices echoed the very truths I had buried for years. The last time I saw Jason was at his sentencing in the courthouse. The self assured grin he always wore had faded, replaced by a hollow resignation that seemed to shrink him right before my eyes. When the judge announced his 15-year sentence, he glanced at me, perhaps expecting to find doubt or hesitation, but all he found was clarity, a sharp, undeniable certainty I hadn't felt in years. That evening, as I sat alone at my desk, I stared at the last photo of us together, taken during our anniversary dinner. Funny how a picture can capture smiles while hiding the fractures beneath. I opened a new document, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then, with a deep breath, I erased the empty page, waiting for the words that had been trapped inside me for far too long. The blinking cursor felt like a heartbeat, steady and persistent. Finally, I typed, "Believe what you feel, because your instincts aren't just noise, they're trying to tell you something." For the first time in years, I realized mine were guiding me exactly where I needed to be. If you're drawn to stories of resilience, truth, and the courage to start over, don't forget to subscribe to the SoraBook channel. There's so much more waiting to unfold in the next videos.